Okay, what's up, people? Today we're going to take a look at inequalities. Specifically, we're going to look at why do you need to flip the sign when you multiply by a negative number in an inequality problem. So we're going to do this by examining this problem we have right here, this inequality. We've got negative 5n minus 6n less than 8 minus 8n minus n. Okay, this is an inequality sign here, means less than. So this basically says that this left side here is less than what's on the right side. Okay, and we're going to solve this for n. We're going to start by taking a look at the left side, and the left side has negative 5n minus 6n. Those are similar terms, like terms as they often refer to them. You've probably heard your teacher say that. Negative 5n minus 6n, we can combine those because they are similar terms, and we have negative 11n, and then we have our inequality sign, and that always comes right down. Then we have 8 minus 8n minus n. So we have negative 8n minus n. Those are similar terms, and we get negative 9n. And again, these are similar terms. This is like an unwritten 1 here. So negative 8n minus 1n is negative 9n. And then the 8 we just bring down because we're not adding or subtracting anything to the 8, so it comes right down. So far we have negative 11n less than 8 minus 9n. Now, next step, we want to collect the n terms on one side of the equation. Our final result has to say n is greater than something or n is less than something. So what we're going to do is we're going to move this 9n over the other side, and we're going to do that by saying plus 9n here and plus 9n here. And the reason I add 9n here is because negative 9 plus 9 makes 0, and that way this term goes away. This negative 9n goes away. Now I have to add 9n here as well, right? Because what I do on the right side, I got to do on the left side. So now I have negative 11n plus 9n, and I get a negative 2n. Now I'm going to, of course, bring down our inequality sign. That comes down regardless. And the 8 comes down because I'm not adding or subtracting anything to the 8. And this goes away, so now I'm left with negative 2n is less than 8. Now, what do we do here? We have negative 2 times n. We want to have this be, say, just n. So we have to ask ourselves, how is the negative 2 connected to the n? What operation connects those two? It's either going to be multiplication or division or addition or subtraction. It's going to be one of those four. Well, it's not being added. Negative 2 is not being added to the n. It's not being subtracted from the n. It's actually connected by multiplication. This says negative 2 times n, so we're going to do the opposite because right now the negative 2 and the n are locked together by multiplication, so we need to do the opposite of multiplication, which is division. So we're going to divide both sides by negative 2. And the reason, you might be wondering, why did I choose negative 2? Because negative 2 divided by negative 2 makes 1. And that's my goal, is just to have one n here, not two n's or negative 3 n's or 1/2 an n. My goal is to have one n. So I divide by negative 2, and that gives me 1. This cancels out, and I have an n here, less than, of course, that just comes down. We don't change that at all, the inequality sign. Now I have 8 divided by negative 2, a positive divided by a negative, that's going to be a negative, and 8 divided by 2 is 4. So I have n is less than negative 4. So now I have my solution here. Oh, but wait a minute. Oh, here comes our $1,000,000 question. Is this going to be less than negative 4? Because there is some kind of rule that we have to, you always got to remember some rule, right? Do we flip the sign when we divide, multiply, negative? What's going on here? So this is where, if you're not really sure, we say, okay, let's put a question mark over this. Let's not quite, I already wrote it in, but let's take this out right now. What goes here? Okay? We think it might be this way. We think it might be this way, right? It might be n is greater than negative 4, n is less than negative 4. So what do? Rather than try and remember the rule, Or let's say you're taking a test and you knew the rule, but then the test happens and you're stressing out and you can't do it. You just make a little box over here on the side of your paper, in your scratch paper, and you write an inequality that you're familiar with. So you might write like something like, let's say 4 is less than 8. Right? That's if you have 4 marbles, that's going to be less than 8 marbles, right? So now you say, okay, if I divide, as I did here, by a -2 on both sides, let's see what I get. 4 divided by -2 is going to be a -2, and 8 divided by -2 is going to be a -4. Now, which is more? -2, is -2 less than -4, or is -2 greater than -4? You might see right now that -2 is -2 is actually greater than -4, but if you don't, you can always make a little number line here. And so you say 0, and I'm going to put -1, -2, -3, and then -4. I'll put 1, 2, 3 here as well. You don't really need to, but now we're going to identify -2. Where's -2 on our number line? Right there. Where's -4 on our number line? Oh, way over here. Which one of these is closer to 0? Since we're talking about negative numbers, the number that's closest to 0 is going to be the larger one. So if I say -2 is this far from 0, and -4 is farther away from 0, that means -2 is actually greater than -4. And then you say, oh, that's the rule. The rule is that when I divide by a negative number, I've got to flip the signs. So this is going to be n is greater than -4. There we go. So now we know that n is greater than -4. So hopefully now you understand why you need to flip the signs when you divide by a negative number in an inequality problem. But what about multiplication? What happens when you multiply a negative number in an inequality problem? What do you do then? Well, let's say you've done an inequality problem similar to the one we just did, and now it comes down to this last step, and you've got -n is less than 5, and you're saying, oh, I just got to solve this last step. So what do? One of the things you can do is you can multiply by -1. Instead of dividing by -1, you can multiply by -1, because -1 times a negative here is going to be a positive n, which is exactly what you want. And then you have 5 times -1, and you get -5. And then, again, the million-dollar question, does this go like this, or does this go like this? So we have a little question mark here. We're not sure which way to go. What do? Same thing. You go off on the side of your paper. You make a little box, whatever you want to do. Just find a place in the side of your paper, and you write an inequality that you know is true, like 1 is less than 2, right? And so you say, okay, 1's less than 2. What happens when I multiply -1 on both sides? Then I have -1 times 1, which is -1, and I have 2 times -1, which is -2. Now, which is smaller, -1 or -2? If you're not sure, because I know it's negative numbers and some people get a little confused by that, then you just make a little number line. You say, okay, here's 0, here's -1, here's -2. You could put 1 here and 2 here if you want. And you just say, okay, -1 goes right there in the number line, -2 goes right here. Again, because we're talking about negative numbers, which one of these numbers is closer to 0? Whichever one is closer to 0 is the one that's larger. In this case, -1 is closer to 0 than this 2, which is a lot farther away. So that means this -1 here is going to be larger than -2. And that's where you say, the rule for multiplying by -1 is, I have to do the same thing. I have to flip the signs here as well. So this becomes n is greater than -5. There's my answer on that one. Now, still other people will get confused by this situation. N plus 2 is less than 7. They've done some big, long problem, and they've narrowed it down to the fact that n plus 2 is going to be less than 7. So they say, I have to get n by itself, and I see that n and the 2 are connected by addition. They're locked by addition, so I have to unlock them by subtracting. So I subtract 2 on both sides, which is exactly what you want to do because 2 minus 2 makes 0, and that 2 goes away. What do you have left is just an n here. Of course, your inequality sign comes down, and you have 7, and you have -2, and you have 5. Oh, but someone might say, wait a minute, I'm not sure. Is this inequality? Maybe it goes like this. What is it? Which way does it go? This is a minus we're talking about. We're subtracting. Oh, that's a minus. That means we flip the sign, right? And that typically happens on a test when you're a little bit confused and you've been studying all night long. You're not really sure. This is where you sit back, you take a deep breath, and again, you make a little box on your scratch paper off the side somewhere, and then you write an inequality that you're sure is true. Something like 5 is less than 10. We know that 5 marbles is less than 10 marbles. So we're going to subtract here. Let's do a subtraction and see what we end up with. If we subtract 2 here and subtract 2 on this side, then I get 5 minus 2 is 3, and 10 minus 2 is 8. So now I have, let's see, which is bigger, 3 or 8? Is 3 less than 8 or 8 less than 3? Well, we know that 3 is a smaller number than 8, so the sign still holds this way. And that's when you say, oh, look, the signs don't change. The signs don't change here. So when I subtract, I don't change the sign. So this one here, n is not greater than 5. N is going to be less than 5. And that's how we do that one. Hopefully you've learned a few things here. If you still have questions, please feel free to write comments in the comment section. I check comments regularly and I respond to them regularly. And we'd love to have you subscribe, so please subscribe. Thank you very much.